Hey, Marco, how are
Hi,
you?
Joseph. Yeah,
I'm good, thanks.
I'm
How are you
well.
doing?
Sorry for the delay.
No, it's okay. It's technology. I
Yeah,
understand.
I've been away for quite some time, so I'm still trying to grasp
Uh-huh.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah, you lost a lot of time behind bars. Kunonzwe ku college, like they
yeah,
say.
I was college. Yeah, I was in college.
Okay. So thank you so much
Yeah,
for joining us here on Live Chat with Josie. Maybe I will give you some few seconds to settle down to put your phone just no the way
yeah.
you were before it was better. I don't know.
Right. Let me try.
Yeah.
How am I now?
I think it's better now.
All right.
Okay. So how you
Yeah,
it's actually culture here on live chat with Josie that I let you introduce yourself. Everybody knows that today I have an exclusive interview with Makomborero, but a lot of people might not know exactly who you are. So who is Makomborero Haruzivishe?
yeah. Makomborero Haruzivishe is the first and foremost, it's a citizen of Zimbabwe,
Hmm.
passionate about human rights, democracy, inclusive economy. So in short, I'm a human rights activist and a pro-democracy campaigner in the patriotic Zimbabwe, who is above all concerned with, you know, achieving a better Zimbabwe. And what's the better Zimbabwe? Is the Zimbabwe, an inclusive Zimbabwe, an inclusive and democratic Zimbabwe, where all citizens, issues and concerns are heard and addressed.
Hmm.
So I think basically that's what I'm mostly about. And yeah, we're here.
Okay.
And in summation, I'm just but a freedom fighter.
Hmm. Okay, so Marco, you are a political activist, you're a human rights activist, like you mentioned, and you are also very active in the opposition politics in Zimbabwe. When did you join politics?
I started following politics or participating in politics. I think when I started doing so, eh, maybe it was just, as a young Zimbabwean searching for better. I can take
Hmm.
you back to the memory lane. I am a villager. I did my eh, education at a primary school in the village, back in the village in Shantika. Then moving forward, I passed my grade 7, went on to did my Form 1 at Kokomero High School. But then at the change of stage from when I did my Form 1 and finished, did my A level, finished, did my, went for my university. It's something that I
Hmm.
discovered at the end that I was kind of losing friends from childhood friends. From grade
Okay.
7 to Form 1, I discovered I was the only one who was at Kokomero. I had lost all my other friends and my
Mm.
classmates, former primary school classmates. At the end of the day, when I interrogated and tried to think about it, I discovered that it was simply due to the issue of failure to get money for them. Their parents
Okay.
could not afford to send them to better schools, to send them to a secondary school, to send them to a high school. Eh, so it's something that was, eh, time and time again being reflected on me, time and time again coming back to me. I didn't have that much consciousness back then because I thought maybe they are not serious, but they are people whom I was competing with. I was always in the
Mm.
top three, in grade 1 up to grade 7, top three of my classes. Either number one, first term I'll be number 2, second term number 3, third term number
Mhm.
1. So I said that, but yes, I may think that I may be intelligent, they might be very good at school, but where is the other two guys whom I was exchanging my number 1, number 2, number 3
The
places
one
with?
you're like competing with in school.
Competing
Mm.
with, yeah.
Yeah.
And I discovered that they were very, very much intelligent, school loving, but the economy. It ended up coming to the economy. They wanted school, but at the end of the day, it were issues to do with their parents failing to meet the costs that are required for them to progress with school. So it affected me as I grew up, as I grew older. It affected me really that much. So yeah, I remember my first demonstration. It was at Makomborero now. When in 2008, I did my O-level in 2008. When we could not, we were now there. I would rather say it's the Champions League in Mashuko province of schools. We could not now, some could not now write exams and stuff. And we were not sure if we were even going to write exams because the economy was really, really bad. Then what then triggered, I think, the activist in me was issues about living conditions, the food and stuff. It was pretty bad, but we had paid our fee. And we were, as kids back then, discovering that when coming from Mashingo, 70 kilometers from Mashingo to Makomborero, it's along the Harare Highway, Mashingo Harare Highway. When we were now going to school, we discovered that we have paid our fares in terms of transport fares. And then in the middle of the road, they would stop and say, "I know you need to now add your bus fares."
To add more money on top of what you've paid already.
Yeah, it's reflected more to do with, it was a reflection more to do with the inflation of the time.
Okay.
So I think things came to a boiling point when the food we were eating now was pretty bad. Come on, we had paid our fees, our parents had paid our fees. Like in my case, my parents had sold the last chicken, raw village for me to get to school. So obviously the frustration, which also became shared and common, was at Makomborero, we were students from all corners of the country. Then we said, I know we need to do something, we need to do some action. Of course, we were reading. We knew of the Soweto students uprising. We knew of other uprisings which had happened. We said, no, why can't we uprise? We demonstrated. That was in 2008. That was my first demonstration. So moving forward to college, because of the path that we had taken on, also the history lessons that we were learning, there was now the issue of we had our own heroes back then. The likes of Lenmo, Judah Dongwe, the likes of Nelson Chamisa, who were back then in the Zimbabwean National Students Union. So when I then went for my A-level at Victoria High School, which also, it kind of influenced, because Nelson Chamisa also did this A-level at Victoria High School. My goal was, no, I need to go to the University of Zimbabwe. Maybe it's the epitome of the students' representation, because what we're facing is not good. We're seeing the deterioration of educational standards, academic standards. And fortunately for me, I managed to fight my way into the University of Zimbabwe. And when I went there, we knew there were issues to do with academic loans and grants, access to education for all, academic freedoms. But these things now, they weren't there when I went. And it also pushed me. I was, laughing earlier on today when I checked at my, it was a 2012 Facebook history. Because, Facebook gives history on pictures and
memory every time,
memories. Yeah. So I discovered my first picture in a photo studio. In that photo studio, I was campaigning to be president of the University of Zimbabwe Students Representative Council. And what had gotten me there now was, when we went to university, all the things we hoped to find, all the things we were expecting, that we were told, actually, that Zimbabwe is number one in terms of education in Africa, and in the top, in the apex, in terms of the whole world, they were not there. Access to education it was a tough fight. Expensive fees, no academic loans, no grants. and also even students who were going on attachment, they were like slaves of the time, slaves of our time. And I'm sure it's the same situation now. They would beg to get attached to a company or even government parastatals or government institutions, but they were not paid anything. They were paid peanuts. It was even worse if you were to go to polytechnics and teachers' colleges. They were getting nothing. Yet we knew that they seemed to fund. So it was some of the fights that we were getting into. Then what pushed me and my fellows in during that time to participate in national politics was we would demonstrate on campus demanding basic access to education, demanding basic access into the lecture room, basic access into the library. And we were told, no, you can't because you've not paid full fee. And naturally, we were to mobilize. Maybe fellow students had fight, saying, no, our constitution says, if I remember back then in my student activity days, I think section 75, which speaks to the right to education. We would fight for that. But when we mobilized and demonstrated, the people who came to stop us, it was the Zimbabwe Republic Police, the riot police, the soldiers and stuff. And there was now an influx also of the Central Intelligence Organization agents. Then I was shocked. We were shocked. But we were having a fight with the university administration. Why are these people getting involved? Because our fights, we believed again as youth, as young students, that our fight for academic freedoms, our fight for access to education, basic access to education, our fight for academic loans and grants, our fight for, living remuneration for those students who are on attachment. We believed it was the fight with academic authorities at the university. But when we saw these outside forces, the police, armed, the CIO soldiers coming and heavily down upon us, I can tell you, it opened our third eyes.
So that's what pushed that you were so sure that I need to join national politics.
Yeah, that's the moment when we realized that no, our problem is not institutional, it's national. Our problem is national.
So, okay, but then that time I am so sure that there were other opposition parties in Zimbabwe. So why did you join then MDC?
I had joined the MDC mainly because they offered solidarity with us when we would get arrested. They offered solidarity with us when we get beaten. And their ideology of social democracy spoke into our issues, not only our issues in terms of problems, but also in terms of solutions on the Zimbabwe we want. The academic education we're fighting, the academic system which ensured, academic freedom that we were speaking to. And also, because of our struggles, we discovered that our parents, like my parents, were mere teachers and peasants. It also spoke to the issues of the workers' remuneration. It also spoke to issues of, the human rights now, because when we demonstrate as students, we would get beaten up, get brutalized. Some of us would be tortured for days. When we speak of 2012, I quoted in the University of Zimbabwe in September 2011. When we speak of those issues, we would get arrested and detained for 2 weeks, no end. The 2012, there was no new constitution which would stipulate the issue of 48 hours to appear before a magistrate or before a court in 48 hours. So we're facing all these things, and it was painful. It was a painful reality. And then the MTC, there was Morgan Trankler back then, who would offer us solidarity in various ways. In terms of speaking out on our behalf when we were incarcerated, also the ideology, DF meetings. And I would also need to widen up in terms of the movement. The movement also involved I'm sure we all know that it was made up when it was formed, the 1999 Citizens Convention, People's Convention. There was the
Yeah.
civil society, the churches, the trade unions, labor unions, etc. So when we faced this claim down from government, we started attending those meetings from ZCTU, the wider workers, movement, the International Socialist Organization. There was the Comrade Nyaz Kisai, he was prominent there. We had PTUs back in the day, which is still there now, Comrade Raymond Machongo and others. So to attend because we had nothing to do, especially when we were barred from attending lectures because we could not pay fees. We were to attend all those meetings and they were there. They increased and developed our consciousness, our geological focus. They strengthened our resolve. We knew that our fight, we are not singular in this fight. There's a wider network in terms of the solidarity. And also our fight, I as a child, as a son of teachers, of peasants, I knew that the reason why my parents cannot pay fees is because in their profession as teachers, they are underpaid. They cannot afford to cater for my fees, for my education. That even they are also side hustle as peasant farmers. They could not find proper markets for their product despite the hard work that they put, time and time again in the field. So it opened a kind of consciousness in me specifically. So all that we would understand that for us to we came to a point that we realized that the ZANU-PF government cannot solve our problems because it's the cause of our problem. We would also research. We know I think the last honorable or which was chancellor at the University of Zimbabwe was Professor Walter Kamba. And he resigned. Why did he resign? He cited one major reason that there were political fingers meddling at UZ. He believed it was a purely academic institution. And now, because of this political finger, which were meddling at UZ, he said, no, I am resigning, which was a very honorable thing. And unfortunately, during our time with the kind of the rogue Professor Lefenyapura, and yeah, that one, even if we were to win in a court of law, if we got arrested, he would hold the counter, the disciplinary hearing at the University of Zimbabwe. And the disciplinary hearing, like my first suspension, the disciplinary hearing found me innocent on all charges. I had 17 charges. And I was found innocent on all charges. But what they did now was, they made clear the chair of the disciplinary committee was Dr. Cherit Manuel by that time. And she made it clear that our role as the disciplinary hearing is to recommend our findings to the Vice Chancellor. You make the final decision. And you know what he did? All my fellow co-accused, they were found not guilty. And I was found guilty of all the charges, hence my first suspension. So it's something that also spoke to issues of failure to respect even the rule of law, because if a higher court, the magistrate courts, had found me innocent, there was no need for a hearing. We should move a kangaroo court to hold another legal proceeding and find a ruling which was different from one of the magistrates courts, which is the higher court. And what mattered now was the ruling of this disciplinary hearing. So it also opened my consciousness, my eyes, and my focus to issues of wider, injustice and unjust system, and why also the court failed to protect me, despite them finding me the higher court. The law was supposed to protect me after all. The law was supposed to protect me. It's what I felt, but it failed. So it spoke now to.
Just to understand, how many times to date have you been behind bars? Have you been arrested since you started activism and all these, the rallies in school, in university? How many times in total have you been arrested?
37 times.
37 times?
Yeah.
And the longest was the previous one, the one that you were in remand, right?
Yeah, it was the longest one, because before this, I had spent 3 months in Chibrook Maximum Prison in 2016. I thought I would never spend a longer period than that one. But this one, yeah, it was too long.
What was your
I did it.
experience?
I came back. Yeah.
What was your experience like in the first time in remand prison in 2016?
My first time in remand prison, I remember I was with the likes of Patson Tamara.
Mm,
I was with the likes of Tatina Mombeara. Patson Tamara, unfortunately, may his soul rest in power. He is dead. Tatina
mm,
Mombeara, he was later to be abducted and crippled because of torture. He was with the likes of Pride of Kono. He, yeah, he was later on to be detained many times, even like Pride and Tatina Mombeara. I'm sure they got the charges of treason charges. I think they twice treason charges. They got them 2 times. The first time one was when we were having a meeting. When we were having a meeting at Crossroads in the International Socialist Organization meeting. When we were reviewing the Arab Spring revolutions and stuff, and clamped down upon and got arrested and charged with treason. So these comrades, they helped me because they'd been in prison before I was very young. So, and in prison, there are APCs of survival, and you need people who take you through the steps. But what you need to know about prison is you can never get used to it. There will be new rules at the end of the day. There will be new systems, and there will be new treatment and different treatment, especially for political prisoners
mm,
than the others.
mm.
So that's how it was. But at the end of the day, we survived. We survived, and many times we each